Hello and welcome. My name is Rob King and this is Homebrew number 24, a fresh blueberry turbo cider. The ingredients for this recipe are 600 grams of blueberries, 200 grams of brewing sugar, 5 grams of English ale yeast, 2 tea bags, 4 litres of apple juice, and we're going to use 5 grams of Fermaid-O for yeast nutrient. The equipment you're going to need is a 5 litre demijohn, an airlock and bung, a funnel, a thermometer, a measuring cylinder and hydrometer. It'll be quite handy to have a measuring bowl and a measuring jug. We're going to use the blender and a saucepan, and we're also going to have to measure out on a normal scales and on a jeweler's scales for those small measurements like the Fermaid-O. When it comes to adding flavours to turbo ciders, you can do it at many different stages. And if you've seen some of my previous brews, I've typically used secondary as the point to add some flavouring in, or even at bottling. However, this time we're going to add flavouring right at the very start, prior to fermentation, by blending down some fresh blueberries. The first step, of course, is to make sure everything has been cleaned and sanitised. So, off we go. In preparation for the fresh blueberry cider, the first thing I did was actually freeze the blueberries. Now this will get rid of any nasty yeasts, hopefully, that we don't want to introduce into our turbo cider. It's been in the fridge for about 6 days. Probably 3 is enough, but I have just purchased them last week. So, we're off. Step 1, we're going to heat up some of the apple juice. Step 1, we're going to heat up some of the apple juice. We'll add some brewing sugar and tea bags to that in a moment. Meanwhile, we can get on with blending some of the blueberries. Now, to help with blending, since these are all frozen, we're going to use a bit of apple juice. Before it reaches the boil, we can start adding in the brewing sugar, 200 grams. Now that's boiling, we can steep the tea bags for 15 minutes. While the tea bags are steeping, we can start putting the blueberry juice into the demijohn. So I'm going to try and filter out some of the worst bits. So we're going to use a hop bag, actually. Let's see how this goes. "15 minutes are up, so our tea bags can come out. We can now add our apple juice, sugar and tea bag solution. And we top up the remainder with apple juice. The temperature is going to be too high for pitching the yeast just yet, but we'll just make sure it's given a good mix and then we'll check the temperature. Temperature's 22.7, so a couple of degrees too high. These are the seeds that we filtered out from the blueberries, so that should make life a bit easier later on. This is our cooling bath. Hopefully that'll bring it down just a couple of degrees we need. While that's cooling, I'm going to enjoy one of the old pear ciders. I think this must be the very last one. Still has that hit. Nice. Time for a hydrometer reading. In 62. I'm guessing this will taste like gluten-free sugary apple juice. Well, when it's cidery too, this should be fab. Well, we've got the temperature just below 20 degrees, so we're ready for our final two ingredients. This is the English ale yeast and some Fermaid-O yeast nutrient. The yeast and yeast nutrient is just sat on the top there, so we're going to give it a bit of a squish. Day one. Day two. A bit quiet. This day 8. Just a small amount of activity still going on. This is day 13. It has started to clear just a little bit. I'm going to siphon in a second and we should be able to see that. We've had 13 days at 20 degrees centigrade, so now we're going to move to secondary. Everything has been sanitised. Because of the fresh blueberries, we're going to take an extra precaution. We're going to put a nylon bag over the siphon. There is definitely an impressive amount of sediment in there, if you could see through. In order to get the most liquid that I possibly could, I definitely brought some sediment through at the end. I started off and it was looking really clear, so I think I'm going to have to do this again, but I'm going to leave it a little while because there's another step. The next step is to add 1 ml of glycerine. 1 ml is a tiny amount. Of course, I'm going to give it a little blast of CO2 just to protect it from this headspace we've got here. And we're going to take a gravity reading. That has finished out pretty dry. That's coming in at exactly 1.000. Right, giving this a try. Oh, so This level of dryness is not to my taste. It doesn't taste strongly alcoholic and doesn't taste strongly blueberry either, although it does have a nice blueberry aroma. So we are going to add 100 grams of xylitol. This is back sweetening effectively to bring up that level of sweetness. Now I want to mix all that up quite a lot, so I'm going to give it a good shake. Now that shake was not to aerate it at all, hence the CO2 in there. That was purely to mix it all in. You can see quite a lot of sediment in there. So I am going to give it a few days back at 20 degrees and then I'm going to siphon it again. We do seem to have some leaves suspended in the middle. Strange blueberry cider. Day 17 and day 3 respectively. The clarity on this is really improving. We are day 19 for the blueberry cider. It's starting to look lovely and clear. Time for a cold crash before we move it to either keg or bottle. It's day 26 for the blueberry cider. It's been cold crashing for 3 to 4 days, so we're going to transfer it to the mini keg to carbonate. It's already looking lovely and clear. There's a bit of shrub there at the bottom. I'm going to be very careful not to take any of that with me, so we get a nice clear blueberry cider. All this has been sanitised. Right, bit of air going to be trapped to the top. Now we've got some pressure in here with the CO2. Splendid. Right, ready to carbonate. Now I am going to just give it a little bit of a head start. I'm just going to give it a little rock, but mostly this is a wait and carbonate for around a week. You could hear the CO2 bubbling back in, where it's hopefully absorbing some of that into the cider. Well, we seem to be carbonated. It does have a lovely aroma. Still quite a dry taste, but a touch of sweetness, just enough to bring through that blueberry flavour, I think. I think I would normally go for a little sweeter, but I am enjoying this because it's bringing out the blueberry. Definitely has a bit of an alcohol kick. This did come out quite strong. Just a little dry. Carbonated nicely in the set and wait. Well, it's been a while since I've used one of these, so I hope I can remember. We have the gas in here split two ways, one going into the keg, one going into the counter pressure bottle filler. And then on the beer tap, we've just got that simply coming through here to the counter pressure bottle filler. So what we should be able to do is gas on, gas off, fill the bottle with gas, and then actually put the beer or put the cider into the bottle completely without touching any air. That's the goal. We've got some sanitized bottles over here. Let's see if I can remember how this works. On. off, air out, that's on, off, air out, beer in. Beer off, release the pressure. That's it. Okay, slightly wrong. Okay, number 2, we'll get it right. Here we are with the bottled blueberry cider. It still has that delicious aroma. It's definitely quite refreshing. But lesson number 1 refers to the back sweetening. I didn't check the back sweetening when I added that xylitol, and just a touch more sweetness would have been perfect. But in the meantime, still delicious. Lesson number 2 was freezing the fruit. The recipe itself came from City Steading, and they'd actually used a Camden tablet with the fresh fruit. And they'd had a little bit of a problem later on, and it gave something of what they described as a funky taste. So freezing it was, and that seemed to work really well. Lesson number 3 then was something new for me, was actually blending the fruit and using it in primary. The side effect of this though was the ABV came out at 8%, which was a little higher than I expected, and this was probably down to the sugars in the blueberries. Lesson number 4 then was the various uses of nylon or muslin bags to help with filtering. In the early stages, that was definitely an advantage. The number of seeds that I actually got out of the bag after that filtering was worth doing. However, it was really messy, and I'm sure there was a much better way of doing it. In fact, what I should have done was simply filter it into a jug and then pour the jug of filtered juice into the demijohn. However, lesson learned, it was still a worthwhile thing to do. Lesson number 5 was effectively the same with siphoning. It actually prevented the flow into the siphon and stopped the siphoning from happening. The idea was right, the practice just didn't quite work out. Lesson number 6 then was the use of the London Ale yeast. Now it did come out somewhat drier than expected. I was expecting from a London Ale yeast for it to finish much higher than it actually did, and it came out dead on 1.000. That was very dry. I was expecting somewhere around 1.008 based on the description of the yeast. However, someone forgot to tell the yeast that. Lesson number 7 then was temperature control, and my new toy, the Fermenter, basically let me make sure that the temperature was controlled all the way through. Probably not quite so important for this one, but actually something I want to do very soon is a lager where temperature control is going to be essential. Lesson number 8 was the cold crash. That again worked really well. Lovely and clear end result. Just wished it was a bit sweeter. Thank you again for watching. Do like and subscribe. Cheers and happy homebrewing.